Hello, hello. Today we will be going for something different. People have been requesting I do, now that I basically have done all the T10 ships, and I've done them plenty of times in different variations, people have been requesting that I do a bunch of lower tier ships. So one of the most popular requests, ones I've gotten so many times, is the Furutaka. I bought it yesterday after maybe a fair amount of beers, but whatever, I still bought it, and this is my second game in the ship. Now the first thing you'll notice about the ship, which I actually quite like, is that it actually has 6 turrets, so it has a turret for each individual gun. This is actually a really good thing, because turret destruction, which can happen every now and then, won't really affect this guy too much. Also the fact that it has hydroacoustic surge at T5, where there's a bunch of minikazes and isokazes, and pretty much every single cruiser has torps, and there's torps everywhere at low tier. This is very nice to have. And the torps on the ship are actually amazing. They're like minikaze before the nerf torps. You got 10 km range and they hit like a truck. They hit for 16k damage and they're actually quite fast. So the torps on the ship are great. But the most important aspect of the ship is obviously the guns. Now, this ship is a bit of transitional period for the Japanese cruisers. You come from the Kuma, which is a very agile spammy ship, and then you go to this heavy cruiser, which is the Furutaka. And people tend to underestimate it because they don't understand that you have to be much careful with your salvos, but in return your salvos do so much damage if you aim them correctly. There's an Oma 10 kilometers away. I naturally switched to AP. Aim for about his waterline since I want to citadel him. Gonna see where my shells land. 2 citadels, almost half his HP gone. And that's from 10 kilometers. The AP power that this ship has is tremendous. This is the only cruiser that has these 203mm guns at this tier. So when it comes to cruiser versus cruiser, you load AP and you absolutely destroy them. There's like, of course the range is a bit lacking at 13 kilometers, but it doesn't matter. You just need to land those shells and you will be absolutely wrecking your opposition. So the Kuma, which you can run around spamming and being agile and avoiding, this is a heavy cruiser. You need to time your shots, you need to play it more akin, almost to a battleship really. It has a long reload, a 15-second reload, so you take plenty of time to position yourself correctly, position your turrets, yourself, prepare for where you're going to shoot, and then you go for the most optimal shot available before you actually pull the trigger. Is this guy really torping me? And the good thing about low tiers is that all carriers are pretty much awful since they're just starting. It's nothing against them as players, it's just that whereas most other people who play cruisers and such, they have had a couple of tiers worth of warming up to learn the ship. Most people who play carrier at T4 and T5, they're basically their first touch with the ship type, so they're obviously quite terrible at it, which is nice for you, that is. There's a Kuma popping out, obviously, AP still loaded. I kind of want to use my Taurus, but there's so many friendlies around, I decided not to risk it. Still, no Citadel, but still 5,000 damage with AP. I'm angling myself away in case any random torpedoes pop out of there. There was a DD in there and Isakaze, I think. Oops, kind of a bit of a mouse jerk there, but still a Citadel from a really weird angle. Because these 200, and basically every cruiser at this tier has paper armor. Absolute paper armor. And these 203mm shells, they just punch through all that armor, which ridiculous is. It's just a Citadel machine, as you can see. That was 4 Citadels and 2 kills now. And just so punishing against enemy cruisers. And I think a lot of people have issues like basically just adapting to the playstyle that the Furutaka brings, but especially since the buffs, the Furutaka is certainly not a weak ship. Like, I think this is only my second game in this ship, and I already realized like the sheer firepower that the ship has. It doesn't have DPM like the Kuma does, or the Omaha does, which are basically machine guns, but it has this massive burst potential. Basically, you catch someone off guard, which happens a lot in low tier, since these are always these scrambled fights. There's lots of ships fighting each other all the time, so it's kind of inevitable that you will catch someone giving you broadside or someone showing too much basically ship side to you, and that's when you get to punish them. The shells don't travel too fast, the accuracy isn't too amazing, but they hit like a truck. A 4.7k Citadel, when most ships have like 20, 25, 30k HP, is a 5th or 6th of their HP gone. Like you saw that, One Citadel, the huge chunk of HP gone from that Phoenix. It's such a brutal ship. It's probably, honestly, it feels a bit like playing something like Hindenburg with a really shitty reload in T5, since anyone gives you broadside and you punish them so hard, instantly. It's honestly, the Furutaka is a very satisfying ship to play in its current state. I mean, obviously, well, I can't even call it a bad ship anymore at all. The turret traverse is obviously very slow, and the reload is very slow, but these are all synonymous with heavy cruisers, and it's good to get used to this type of gameplay now, because this will continue on for a long bit. The Mayoko, the Ibuki, the Zao, they all have terrible turret traverse. So getting used to it now is a good idea, because they also all have this hugely punishing broadsides that they can unleash. St. Louis, I have no idea how to citadel that ship, I swear. I have an easier time citadeling like Tirpitz and Cleveland than I have citadeling a St. Louis. For some reason, I just always get jinxed when I try to hit it. Going for a bit of a greedy... Yeah, as expected, I tried to see if my AP could pen the New York at an angle, but it's not quite that strong, so I switched to HE. Which you should note that the Furutaka has an insanely high chance of fire. It has a 17% chance of fire per shell. So when you start unloading these full broadsides with HE, you're gonna get fires real fast if you get to actually shoot them at battleships. Did I miss? I think I missed completely. That's interesting. Is he gonna hit torps? No, looks like he's gonna dodge them. Oh, there, I get to land my shells, which is most likely a first shell started a fire. Like, case in point right there. AP against cruisers, HE very strong against battleships. Especially since in low tier people often don't understand to use the premium repair party, which means that if you get a fire on someone, they're probably gonna last. The fire is probably gonna burn the full duration. Going for a bit of AP, see if I can secure that kill. Can my AP pen from this angle? I only hit 2 shells. That's actually a lot less than I was hoping for. Let's try again. There we go. Took a bit longer than I wanted, but whatever. I'm a bit worried now. I don't really know where to angle. I kind of want to turn right to face these torpedo planes. But on the other hand, if I turn right, I get full broadside to this Myogi. And even though the Myogi doesn't have much firepower, it hits like a truck. And if I get 3 citadels, it's gonna wreck me. So I'm gonna opt to eat a couple torps and instead keep myself angled towards the Myogi. I think this is yes, I will eat a lot of damage, but I think it's a safer trade. Of course, now I actually noticed that this Myogi is shooting HE, because this is low tier, so I probably could have just given him broadside and come alive just fine. But I only need 1 kill for this game to end, so I'm gonna just go all out on this Omaha. That's another citadel on it. It's probably torping since it took a break in firing here, which is foolish. He should have just shot me to shit. And I was firing again, but I think it's too late for him now. Citadel. 3 citadels, Croc and Unleash. That Omaha got absolutely obliterated. How many citadels did I end up doing? Like 9 citadels in 5 kills. Top score with the Furutaka. The damage isn't that special, but you gotta consider this game lasted less than 9 minutes. So, honestly, the Furutaka is quite fun in its current state. Whatever complaints people had for it in the past, they would just wipe those away and either give it a new shot or just forget about it. As usual, I will start with the modules. Now, the first thing I think, it's a bit of an option here. It's either you go for reload and damage, or you go for range. Both are acceptable. I think range might make it the ship slightly easier to play, but honestly, this upgrade is massive. Like, it gives you a huge upgrade in DPM. So it's kind of up to you. I think if you have no problems closing the distance to your opponent, then pick the gun upgrade. Otherwise, go for the range. But these two are the 2 priorities, obviously. Afterwards, you obviously want to go for the hull, and well, the torps are nice. I mean, it's the range. You get a bunch of range and you get a bunch of damage. You lose some speed, so it's a good upgrade to get, especially if you plan on playing the Furutaka till the end without any free XP. Then they definitely have more uses if you go for the upgrade. But generally, go for the gun upgrades first, because they are so massive on this ship. Upgrade wise, main battery mod of course, guns are your bread and butter. Accuracy, you want to be able to actually land those citadels. And personally I went with damage control system 1. You can go with propulsion, since citadels tend to knock out your engine, but it kind of depends. If you go for this one, you'll be able to use it in later ships, because in later ships you won't actually need propulsion mod at all, because engine getting knocked out is kind of a low tier thing on cruisers in this game. So it's kind of up to you once again. Personally I prefer this just for future proofness, and generally I want to avoid citadels to begin with, so propulsion is kind of meh for me. Consumable wise, of course, there's not much to it. You want to use the premium repair. You don't have to use the premium hider, I just do it because I have so much money that I don't care. And I default catapult fighter, there's no need to go premium here. And captain perks wise, my main priority is obviously situation awareness. You want to know if you are spotted or not. It helps against DDs, it helps when you're shooting behind cover and such. Second upgrade, expert marksman. Once again, guns are your bread and butter, and they will continue to be that all the way to T10. For this upgrade, there are actually some options here. The superintendent is great, and generally when you hit T9 you will want to respec the superintendent, just because you get the self-heal then. So if you're never planning on respecing your captain, you actually want to pick superintendent just to be future-proof, because at T9 you will have to spec superintendent regardless, because it becomes automatically the best perk to use. But if you have no issues with respecing, then vigilance is quite nice, since you'll give that extra torpedo detection range until you hit that high tier. And of course demolition expert. You don't really do much with advanced firing training, since the Japanese cruisers in general have garbage AA, so not much help from it. Last stand is pointless, this is pointless, so demolition expert is a great option, and it's also very future proof. And finally, of course, concealment expert. You'll probably, of course you won't have it at D5, this is just because I took another captain, but ultimately you want to get the concealment expert because it's one of the best perks and something I use on every single high tier cruiser. Anyway, that was my short but hopefully sweet Furutaka commentary, which has been requested I don't know how many goddamn times. I hope you enjoyed it.